The legendary beast Pokemon Suicune, Entei, and Raikou are all making a return in the second part of the downloadable content, the Indigo Disk. But will they still be good in the VGC metagame? Hello everyone, Sableye here, and today we are going to be talking about exactly that. But first off, we have to answer the burning question of are they dogs or are they cats? We need to settle this debate down below in the comment section, so please let me know your thoughts down below. I'm personally on Team Dog, but y'all can yell at me and tell me how wrong I am. Regardless, now we are going to get, like I said, all three of their main forms back. Of course, we do have their new forms coming as well with the Paradox Raikou, along with the Walking Wake if they ever decide to free it from jail. But besides the point, today we're going to be talking about their three base forms right now. We're going to kick things off with the Suicune right now, and Suicune is personally my favorite to use, or historically my favorite to use, of the legendary trio here, and just because it is exactly my style of play. It is ridiculously bulky, like its HP and defense is at 100, 115, 115. It's not dying to too much, and then it gets incredible support moves in stuff like Tailwind. It also used to get access to Helping Hand along with Snarl. If I could type, that would be great. Cool. Alright, obviously we're not certain if these tools are going to be coming back along with it, but I really don't see a reason for them to remove these pieces from Suicune, right? And the whole concept with Suicune and what Suicune is really, really good at is either sitting on the field, taking a couple hits, and supporting the pieces around it with either Tailwind, Snarl, and Helping Hand and stuff like that. You also get access to Icy Wind if you don't want to technically use Tailwind or anything like that. But I think Tailwind is probably superior, especially in today's metagame. But then you also get stuff like Scald, so you can fish for burns if you want to or if you ever needed to. It's also just a good, consistent water move. Once again, it does need to require it actually learning Scald in Scald and Violet, because I know a lot of pieces did lose access to that move. But I see no reason why Suicune wouldn't have access to that move. But, right, you have the option to support everybody else around your Suicune, but Suicune also has the option to go something along the lines of Calm Mind and set itself up. So you can go like Calm Mind, Ice Beam, Scald, Protect, right? And all of a sudden, you're sitting on the field quite a bit, right? You're bulking up, then you're fixing your base 90 special attack, because that's a question mark with Suicune as well, right? In the past, it was, okay, this isn't too big of a deal, because, you know, you're eating like 6 or 7 hits, and eventually if you're eating 6 or 7 hits, you're going to be able to dish back at least 4 or 5 of those, right? You might have to recover or protect a few turns, but you're probably putting back out 4 or 5 hits of your own, and at 90 base special attack, that's still going to add up over time. But in the power creep of this meta, is it going to be a problem to be able to survive nearly as many hits as you want? Like something like Fluttermane, in my opinion, is my immediate concern versus Suicune, which is where I think Calm Mind might come in handy, because if I can set up in front of the Fluttermane, I can probably outlast it, depending on how much damage it's putting. But what scares me the most is definitely just that big Terra Fairy Moonblast from the Choice Specs Fluttermane is probably doing around 60 to 70 to this thing. Obviously, I might be overestimating it, but Specs Terra Fairy Fluttermane is an absolute menace. It is dishing out incredible damage, and that's what concerns me the most with this Suicune. Because the other big hitter right now, like Urshifu, you resist the Urshifu, right? And that feels incredible to me. You know, resisting Urshifu has never been a bad thing. Obviously, close combat is hurting, but then they have to lower their defenses. You can intimidate the close combat as well. So Suicune definitely wants to be in front of that Urshifu, maybe reset Tailwind. Like Torn Urshifu, Suicune loves going up against Torn Urshifu, because you can just match that Tailwind, not really concerned too much, right? And definitely want to see Suicune utilized for that. But like, once again, like I said, it's that 90 special attack that I don't know if it cuts it anymore. Like I said in the past, you'd get to eat those hits and then dish out a good chunk of hits on return, but you might only get 1 or 2 attacks off now with the Suicune, and in that point, is it still usable? And that's really what we're going to have to wait and see. I would like to hope it is. It feels really like it still looks like a very bulky piece. It's still, if it keeps all its tools, it will be usable. How much we're going to see it is debatable, but it will definitely be usable. Now, I want to talk about Terra types, because similar to Cresselia, I think Terra types actually benefit Suicune entirely. Like, absolutely, Suicune loves seeing the fact that Terra is a mechanic in this generation. And I say that because there is a Terra type that you can use to resist both of its already current weaknesses, which feels incredible, right? Like normally versus like Suicune and the Cresselia, and I said this way back when I was talking about Cresselia coming around, it was you would save your dark type for Cresselia and you'd be able to win, right? Your piece preservation, that would be your piece preservation, right? But with Suicune now, same thing, you would normally save your electric type or your grass type, right, to deal with the Suicune. Obviously, Iron Hands is a huge problem for Suicune, don't get me wrong, but if I go Terra Dragon, right, and Terra Dragon actually resists both grass and electric, and should allow me to sit in front of Iron Hands to get some scalds off and maybe get a burn at some point. But I don't think Suicune is going to be used to beat Iron Hands. I think you're going to want to pair Suicune with something that can already beat the Iron Hands. Maybe something like a Rillaboom Lando Suicune kind of core could be really, really cool. Right, you get the Intimidate onto hands, you get the faster Fake Out, you get the big damage with the Wood Hammer, big damage with the Stomping Tantrum, right, just to support the Suicune well. That also does pretty well into the Flutter Mains as well, especially if you go like Scarf Lando, AV Rillaboom. Anyways, I'm building a core right now that I really didn't want to build, but that does sound pretty heat. I'm going to write that down for later. But the concept still stands that Terra Dragon resisting both of your weaknesses feels incredible, and at the same time, you're also still going to be resisting that Surging Strikes, which was one of the core reasons I wanted to think Suicune was going to be good in the first place. I don't know, that feels pretty good to me, right? That feels pretty good to me. If you can somehow deal with like those bigger hitters like that Flutter Mane, I think there's a real spot for Suicune to be very, very viable in this meta, right? Maybe you do go Rillaboom Suicune, you fake out the Flutter Mane partner, Flutter Mane launches an attack, can't kill you, you get a Tailwind up, and then you have Wood Hammer and that kills Flutter Mane. Right? Maybe that becomes the core. I don't hate that at all. And then you go lefties on Suicune, lefties plus grassy terrain. Feels pretty good to me. Anyways, like I said, I'm building a core that I really shouldn't be building right now. But really, really think Suicune has a niche. I do definitely want to see how it evolves, right? Because like I said, you always see Suicune in some way, shape, or form because it is a really good Pokemon at what it does. The problem is what it does enough now to keep up with the metagame. Only time will tell. Entei time. Now, Entei is personally not a Pokemon I have used too much in VGC in the past, or in even like all those other formats like the Spikemuth format and like the fan-made ones, even in the Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl format as well. I haven't really utilized Entei all that much, but Entei now gets Inner Focus, and I think that, well, all three of them get Inner Focus. I should have talked about that with Suicune too. That's not bad, but Inner Focus, not being able to get faked out, not being able to get intimidated now either because of Inner Focus is a absolutely insane spot for Entei to be in. This can function similarly. The way I see Entei is this mon is incredibly strong at offense. Now, obviously, it has some defensive bulk. Like, it's not like the frailest Pokemon. 115, 85, 75 is not a bad defensive stats at all. Those are good defensive stats, right? But the way I see using Entei is you take advantage of that 115 attack stat, and you either go something like a Choice Band, like that Life Orb. I think this could function as like an alternative, like Dragonite, so to speak, like a better typing, a different typing Dragonite. So you probably want to go Terra Normal because you do get access to that big extreme speed. And assuming it still keeps that moving forward, once again, it's similar to Suicune, I don't see why it would lose these pieces, right? So you're going to see Extreme Speed Entei, right? Terra Normal Choice Band, probably beside the Shenpao, right? And now, do you necessarily need Shenpao to be able to click Sacred Sword? And I think that's something that's up in the air, because normally you don't, Shenpao is always like, oh, I want Sacred Sword. I feel like I need Sacred Sword here, because like, the steel types can get a little bit annoying if they lock into E-Speed, and you can't beat the steel types, right? So you probably still do want Sacred Sword in the Shenpao. But with the ability to just simply have Sacred Fire, you also do get, I believe, Stomping Tantrum as well. Right? Obviously, these are all going to show up as illegal because they don't have like their official movesets from the new, from this gen yet, because they're technically not out yet in the game, so we don't know. But you would imagine it's keeping these pieces, right? And just this set alone feels incredible. We've seen Arcanine, Hisuian Arcanine lock Choice Band before and just send it. And similar concept, once again, you can do the similar thing with Entei. It's actually faster than Arcanine. You don't even need to pair this with Shenpao, right? This could just be the Hisuian Arcanine. I believe it used to get Rock Slide as well. I don't think it's as good on a non-stab option. But these 3 moves for sure are coming out. I feel like you could also almost get away with like a Terra Blast if you wanted to. But you could pretty much just maybe send this, right? And say, you know what? Choice Band Entei, it's the new Hisuian Arcanine. I can't get intimidated, so good luck cycling me down. I have E-Speed. I can go Terra Normal if I wanted to. Good luck out prioritying me, right? And it just feels like it could be that piece. Obviously, this piece doesn't quite beat... unfortunately doesn't quite beat the Urshifus. But once again, do you go Terra Fairy and send Terra Blast, right? Because that is a cool option. Obviously, Arcanine has that Head Smash, but you don't have that option on the Entei anymore. You don't need that option on the Entei, right? You could also just go Flare Blitz for more consistent fire damage if you don't want to risk the miss on Sacred Fire, because it is, I believe, 90% accurate. Also has a 50% chance to burn, by the way, because Sacred Fire kind of do be like that. But I think Sacred Fire is too good not to have. But I could definitely see you switching to like double fire on a set like this, where you say, you know what, if I need to make sure I'm connecting my move and I cannot afford to miss, you can click that Flare Blitz button. There's a lot of options with Entei. I think Life Orb set is very cool as well. But I do think Entei is the most aggressive of them here. It just feels incredibly, incredibly strong. And once again, beside that Shenpao, you're going to see it, and it's just an alternative to Dragonite. Why not run both, right? You think, oh, they're going to cover Shenpao D-Knight? Oh, no, now they got to cover Shenpao Entei, and Entei isn't weak to Fairy like the Dragonite is. I think that's the key one, right? Entei's not weak to that Fairy type, so Flutter Mane no longer decimates that core because Entei can just eat the Moonblast. Obviously, like, it probably still doesn't want to take a Moonblast, but once again, we've been over this. The bulk on Entei is pretty good. You could probably do something along these lines as well and bulk this up. Obviously, I just slid those bars, right? And they probably don't even make sense, but you know what I mean? You could bulk up Entei quite a bit, right? Like, you probably would want less in HP if I wanted to make this optimal. You know, you'd go up this way, maybe something along these lines. Who needs speed if you're spamming Bandit E-Speed 90% of the time? Who needs speed? You probably do want a little bit of speed, but we're not going to get into that today. But, like, I do really think Entei has a spot, especially besides Shenpao, as that alternative Dragonite option, because, like, can't get intimidated, can't get faked out, sends Bandit E-Speed. Sacred Fire is disgusting if I'm just going to burn you 50% of the time, right? And then obviously you clean things up with like a Stomping Tantrum, and once again, you can go Terra Blast if you wanted to. There's a lot of options there. Entei is by far the more offensive piece of the 3, and I honestly think it's really, really cool. And everybody's favorite, Raikou. Now, here's the thing, okay? Here's the thing. This thing, in my opinion, was never that good. It saw niche usage throughout history of VGC. I'm not going to pretend it hasn't seen usage. Obviously, it has stats, right? It's obviously, I believe, the base 115 speed, right? It is the faster and, in my opinion, the frailer of the 3. But now with Inner Focus, right, I just think 115 speed isn't fast anymore. And I hate to say it, but 115 speed is just sadly not that fast. You know? It's just not there. Obviously, it actually hits a pretty decent spot while hitting 167 with Modest. So you technically could get away with that, right? This does speed tie TU unless you go Timid. But who's really running max speed TU nowadays anyways, right? Probably nobody. So you can probably get away just creeping like the Adamant, the Jolly Urshifus, and then you're just faster than it. So that's a cool option. Obviously, you get the electric moves. You probably get Calm Mind as well still. I just don't know what Raikou is doing for you outside of just not being Iron Hands. You know, you lose a lot of bulk that you'd get from Iron Hands for arguably a worse Iron Hands. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too hard on this thing because, like, there obviously is tools going for it. The speed that you're going is really, really nice because, let's be real, you're one-shotting Urshifu. Urshifu going Terra, Urshifu being a water type, it's dying. It's not surviving that, right? There's no, oh yeah, I'm just going to survive this, right? It's just not going to, right? It can build bulky. It's probably not surviving. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty confident Entei is killing Urshifu, but I could be wrong. Like some of those like absurdly bulky sets on Urshifu. But once again, I think that's where Raikou has that niche. If Raikou is going to see something in this meta, it's going to be here. Maybe you go like a Calm Mind set to try and capitalize on the fact that maybe they're going to lead passive. I don't know if I like that as much, right? But something along the lines of like Thunderbolt, Fast Snarl, I think, is really, really cool. And it can be that fast support, right? Obviously, you don't get Tailwind because, you know, you're not Suicune Raikou. But, like, Thunderbolt Snarl, I don't remember if this Pokemon got Icy Wind. I don't want to say it did, but I feel like it had speed control at some point. I don't remember what it was. But, you know, you can be that fast Pokemon. Maybe you do slap an Assault Vest on this thing, so you're not losing to the Flutter Mane immediately. You can probably make this thing, like, it's not that bulkless, you know? Like, it can probably take some attacks with an Assault Vest, right? So, Thunderbolt Snarl, right? And then 2 other moves. I don't know what you'd put. Like, obviously, that would just depend on the meta, right? But maybe a Terra Blast and pick a Terra, right? Maybe you go, like, Terra Water and Terra Water Terra Blast and blow up the fire types, right? Like, there's a lot of options with this Pokemon, but I feel like Raikou on its own doesn't do much. Whereas I feel like if Raikou wants to be used, it needs to see that niche pick. I think its niche right now would be being faster than that Urshifu, and I think that's the only niche it actually has. Right, that would be my only reason to use it over Iron Hands. If I'm going to use a bulky electric type, or if I'm going to use an electric type that I want to dish out damage, it's probably just going to be Iron Hands. I feel like I get more out of it, but there is a niche for Raikou being as fast as it is. You might even want to just go Timid and just send it, because now you're outpacing some of the bulkier Flutters as well to get a potential Snarl off, right? There is a lot of options with Raikou. I don't know if it does the things enough to not be outclassed, but I do think there's a niche. Like I said, being faster than Urshifu is by far the number one. I think I said that at least like 16 times right now, that Raikou is just faster than Urshifu. Did you guys know Raikou is faster than Urshifu? Because I'm shook. I just found that out today. But like, clearly, you know, that to me is that main advantage that you're going to get from the Raikou. I think Snarl is very cool as well. Obviously, we will have to wait and see. There is a ton of new Pokemon as well coming back. But like, Snarl and Thunderbolt not being able to get faked out kind of feels okay, if you ask me. With that, we are going to wrap this video up here. The 3 legendary beasts, whether or not they are going to make an impact on the VGC metagame, is yet to be seen. However, I think they have the tools to show up and actually make a splash in the scene. I'm actually excited to try probably 2 of the 3 of them out. Probably not going to test Raikou unless there's like some really big niche for it. But you know what? I think, like I said, Raikou has a niche. Suicune and Entei are definitely probably going to be utilized. Suicune I'm a little worried about, but Entei is probably going to be seen a lot more. But with that, all 3 I think are going to be, you're going to see them. And with that, we're going to officially wrap. I am going to stop rambling now. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in a future video.